The location of the Russian President Vladimir Putin will now be kept secret, as he was urgently evacuated from his own residence after a fabricated Kremlin attack on the Novgorod region. This statement was made today by Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. In this regard, the Kremlin stated that Russia is not only ready to strike Kiev in response, but is also completely changing its position in the negotiations, and will complain about Ukraine. Today, Peskov told Donald Trump that the fabricated attack by the armed forces of Ukraine was aimed not only at Vladimir Putin, but also at Donald Trump. I'll explain how in this episode, but here's what's interesting. The Kremlin refused to provide any evidence of the attack on Vladimir Putin's residence, and Russian media report that local residents didn't hear anything at all that night when the attack happened. They also claim there was no air raid alert. At the same time, it was revealed that Vladimir Putin signed 2 decrees, one for a new conscription wave and another calling up reservists for the war against Ukraine. In this episode, we'll break down the Kremlin's strategy for withdrawing from negotiations by staging a fabricated attack on Vladimir Putin's residence. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video, leave any comment, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechi News. The link to it is in the description of this video. Friends, have you noticed how we are actively drawn to watching negative news? I'm sure that most of you, when you wake up, reach for your phone to read the latest news right away, and it's the negative news that grabs your attention more than the regular ones. But why does this happen, and how can we avoid overloading ourselves, especially during the New Year holidays? To figure this out, I encourage you to watch this video, the link to which is appearing on your screens, and I'll also leave a link to this video in the description. I recommend you go and watch it, because it's a very interesting psychological trick of our brain that pushes us to pay more attention to negative news. So let's get to the main part of our episode. The press secretary of the President of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Peskov, against the backdrop of statements from the Russian side about an attempted attack on Vladimir Putin's residence in Valdai, announced that Vladimir Putin's whereabouts can no longer be discussed publicly. Here is his quote. As for President Putin's whereabouts under the current circumstances, this topic is not subject to any public discussion. If rumors about Putin hiding in a bunker were once just a meme, now they mean something very different. The Kremlin has actually classified Vladimir Putin's location. Let me remind you what this is all about. Earlier, the head of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, said that on the night of December 29, Ukraine attempted to attack Putin's residence in the Novgorod region, using 91 drones which were destroyed by air defense systems. Remember, 90 is just one drone according to Lavrov. But his data differs from the information of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, according to which 18 drones were shot down over the region that same night, and the rest were shot down over other regions. But according to Lavrov, it's 91. We've already told you this is just a typical information campaign. After all, Vladimir Putin, during a phone conversation with Donald Trump, has already managed to complain about the attack and announced a review of Russia's position on Ukraine. Later, Donald Trump himself called the incident very bad and said that now is not the right time for all of this. The official representative of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Maria Zakharova, stated that Russia's response will not be diplomatic, hinting at missile strikes on the government quarter in Kyiv. And here I'll pause right away. This operation has another layer if Russia is threatening to attack the government quarter in Kyiv. This means that the Verkhovna Rada will not be able to convene for sessions and will not be able to vote on legislative initiatives necessary for holding a referendum on Donbass and for presidential elections during wartime and the post-war period. And then it will be easy to accuse Ukraine of lying and breaking promises and agreements. Although Zelensky stated today that he is ready to put the peace plan and even the question of withdrawing the armed forces of Ukraine from Donbass to a nationwide referendum. But the main question here is whether there really was an attack on Putin's residence in the Novgorod region, or is it all just a lie? And today, the representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Georgy Tykhy, stated that Russia fabricated this story to justify rejecting peace initiatives, quote, That is exactly why the Russians came up with the hoax about the attack on Putin's residence. All they needed was to create a fake excuse for Russia to reject peace efforts. President Volodymyr Zelensky dismissed the accusation, calling the attack report another Russian lie. He believes Russia is seeking a pretext to strike Kyiv's government quarter and disrupt peace talks. But maybe, in such a situation, the Russians themselves presented evidence of an attack on Putin's residence. As Dmitry Peskov stated today, the Kremlin will not present evidence of the raid by almost 100 Ukrainian drones on Vladimir Putin's residence in Valdai. And just listen to Peskov's quote, "I don't think there should be any evidence here if such a massive drone raid is taking place. As for the debris, I can't say, that's more a topic for our military." Remember, yesterday in the broadcast I specifically said that if a missile is flying toward Kyiv, just in the direction of Kyiv, you can confidently claim that this missile is personally targeting Volodymyr Zelensky and his home or the president's office. Remember, of course I was exaggerating, I was laughing at that kind of logic, but in the Kremlin they used exactly that logic as an argument to claim that the drones were definitely flying toward Putin's residence. Peskov says, listen, the drones were flying, what more proof do you need? Well, supposedly they shot them down, according to Lavrov's version. They shot down 91 drones, so there should have been debris, but there isn't any. Peskov says, well, that's not my area, that's for the military. In general, the debris could have just dissolved in the air. It's also funny that Peskov called the attack on Putin's residence a terrorist act, which was directed not only against Putin, but also against United States President Donald Trump, as well as to disrupt peace negotiations. He reminded that Zelensky, in his Christmas greeting, said that all the people of Ukraine are making the same wish. Next, I will quote Peskov. "Everyone tells themselves they'll die, but only when they turn to God. We ask for more. We ask for peace for Ukraine," said the Ukrainian president. Now Zelensky after this is trying to deny the attack on Putin's residence, and many Western media outlets are playing along with the Kyiv regime's statement that there was no attack. Insane. Well, that's not all. Residents of Valdai in the Novgorod region did not notice nearly 100 drones arriving and being destroyed on December 29 as they allegedly targeted President Vladimir Putin's residence, according to Russian authorities. The Russian publication Możem Objasnit specifically sent journalists to this region, that is, they met there with local residents and asked what actually happened on the night of December 29. And so the locals told a very interesting story. They said that not only were there no explosions or sounds of air defense systems supposedly shooting down as many as 91 drones. Moreover, there wasn't even an air raid alert announced throughout the entire region. Nothing happened in the region that night. Moreover, local residents said that Putin wasn't there either. The thing is, Putin's residence is located to the northeast of Valdai, and it's separated from the city by Olga. So, in the city of Valdai itself, about 14,000 people live there, and the residents of Valdai know very well when Putin arrives at his residence. Thanks to the noise of the helicopters, which is hard not to notice, but all last week there was complete silence in the region. Nevertheless, this information campaign by the Kremlin unfortunately has already worked to some extent. American President Donald Trump has already stated that he was outraged when he learned from Putin about the alleged attempt by Ukrainian drones to strike the residence of the Russian president, although he admitted that maybe there was no such attack, and in general, more investigation is needed. But it is precisely this information campaign that has given Russians a reason to claim that the alleged attack by Ukrainian drones on the residence of the Russian president will lead to a tougher Russian stance in negotiations on a peaceful settlement of the conflict. Next is a quote from Peskov. "This terrorist act is aimed at disrupting the negotiation process. The diplomatic consequences will be a tougher negotiating position from the Russian Federation. As for the military consequences, our military knows how, with what, and when to respond. Russia is not withdrawing from the negotiation process. Russia, of course, will continue the negotiation process and dialogue, primarily with the Americans. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin, right from the bunker where he was hidden, no one knows which one, signed 2 decrees at once." First, Vladimir Putin signed a decree on sending reservists to special training camps to protect critically important facilities, including his own residence all across Russia. Secondly, Putin signed a decree on year-round conscription of Russians into the army, and in this way, Putin wants to recruit 261,000 conscripts in 2026. That's how Putin wants peace. Meanwhile, Zelensky said, quote, "I'm ready to meet with Putin in any format. The main thing is that Russians are not afraid." I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. If you found this episode interesting and informative, you can support this YouTube channel with your donation or a paid sponsorship subscription using the links and details provided. In the description of this video it says, support the channel Alexei Pechi. Choose any format that is convenient for you. Thank you for any support. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye. To be continued.